Hello. Do you like my shirt? My Chocobo Popeyes shirt. I have a ton of these from Mono World. There's Cloud in front of a McDonald's, Sephiroth with Burger King. There's a bunch of them and I must collect them all. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I just finished it, clocked it at 110 hours plus some change. I explored so much, did all the quests, except I need to go back and finish Gilgamesh's Island because I didn't do that. But that's about it. That's about all that's left for me. I want to talk about a couple of touch points and like my thoughts on them, like the Black Materia, the ending, the timeline, multiverse stuff. But before we get into everything, hi, I'm Jazzy Okami. I'm an illustrator, graphic and motion designer. I'm also a small streamer and YouTuber who is a fan of being a fan of things. Final Fantasy VII is one of my first video games ever. It's something special I share with my dad, and timing was perfect for this because this past week has been really tough on me, and this was an escape for me, and it was a wonderful escape. It felt like a dream. If this doesn't win Game of the Year, it's Game of the Year in my Kokoro. Another thing, massive spoiler warning. If you haven't finished playing this game, watching this game, if you don't know much about the original and don't want to hear very strong theories about what's going to happen next, then don't watch this. But if you're all caught up and know most of everything, then keep on watching. So as far as the overall game goes and how much it encompasses from the original tale, it covered as much as I expected it to. Disc 1 of the original covers a lot of ground. You do most of your traveling there. Then as you carry on to the other discs, they get shorter and shorter, with the last one obviously being the boss battle, the final boss battle. Where things are left off, there is a huge conflict between Wutai and Shinra/Midgar. We're most likely going to be visiting Wutai in the third installment. We're going to be going to the Northern Crater to find Sephiroth. For those of you who don't know and don't care about being spoiled, his actual physical body is located there, and I'm pretty sure it's going to stay the same in the third installment. For the most part, besides like some newer side things, it's been following the original story beats. This is our original timeline, you can say. Square did a good job kind of playing with my mind and emotions because of like the order of events that's happening in the trailers and teasers and what's being said. I was led to believe certain things. A lot of people thought Tifa was gonna die this time due to like Sephiroth really pushing Cloud to like get rid of her. She does play a huge part in Cloud's mental healing post Aerith's Unaliving, which was probably why Sephiroth wanted to attempt to manipulate Cloud into offing her. I haven't watched many theory videos. I know I'm late to the party, but I literally just finished it, so I tried not to dive into too many theories. I saw somewhere somebody talking about the world of destruction and world of creation matching up with the different whispers that we see in the game. I was hoping the whispers would come back. It would only have made sense to, but they're not the same as the remake whispers. Those are gone. So Sephiroth is in control of the black whispers, and Aerith is in control of the white whispers, if I'm correct. These new whispers have like glowing orbs, could be materia, in place of a face as they float around, and they're fighting against each other. But I'm confused just because like when Cloud tries to make it to Aerith at the Forgotten City, both the white and the black whispers try to fight against him and the gang. But anyways, there have been two major theories going around and pertaining to the ending. One, Cloud is now interacting with Aerith of a different timeline, a timeline where she lives and she tries to help him out. And another one where his mental degradation is continuing and he now sees a live stream version of our Beagle Aerith, our Aerith, this timeline's Aerith, and nobody else can. I can see why both can happen. So once we make it to the Forgotten City, Cloud's the only one to make it through the Wall of Whispers. Once we get to the point where we reach Aerith and Sephiroth comes down to pierce her with his sword, it's switching back and forth to different scenes. One where Cloud deflects the sword and you see a rainbow light, and anytime a rainbow light happens, that's when a new timeline is created. One timeline, the sword is deflected, Aerith lives. The other one, our current timeline, Aerith is not saved. What happens is what happens in the OG. She is stabbed, she passes away, her hair comes undone, the active white materia falls into the water. And because of both of that happening, people are debating whether or not like Cloud is switching between two different timelines or his mind is just messing with him, trying to make him think that he succeeded in saving her. I feel like my brain is leaning towards the latter, or maybe somewhere in the middle. Just because, yeah, with that rainbow light, I do believe that a new timeline was created where Aerith is alive. But as the scenes are switching back and forth to Aerith being alive and caressing Cloud's face, telling him it's okay, to the group finding Aerith and Cloud, Aerith bleeding out, and Tifa just looking so distraught. Oh my gosh, I felt for her. Everybody was grieving. She was grieving really hard. I also forgot to mention, as Cloud's holding Aerith and the scenes are still switching back and forth, you can see Cloud mouth something, but you can't hear it. And I think he's saying what he does in the original, where he's reflecting on how he's feeling, and it's like, Aerith won't be able to smile, she won't be able to laugh or cry. We kind of cut to everybody grouped up, sitting or standing near the water. We are missing something. We don't get to witness Cloud carrying Aerith into the water, the burial scene essentially from the OG. And I feel like there's a reason for that, which is another reason why I feel like it's just Cloud's brain being messed up and not realizing what's occurring. This scene is going to happen, but it's going to play later on as a flashback. Probably when Cloud is getting his memory back, finding the truth about what actually happened in Nibelheim and who he really is, and he has to come to terms with the fact that Aerith is no longer with them. Furthermore, as they're sitting there near the water grieving, Barrett eventually gets up and says, like, we gotta go. We have to continue this mission. And Cloud's just not matching the vibes at all. He's like, okay, great idea, let's go. And Tifa's just like, what? Our friend just died. She's just in shock. Throughout mainly the second half of the game, Cloud is just not a likable person, let's be honest. Love him, but yeah, just switching back and forth between Sephiroth mode, reunion mode, and just not knowing what's going on to back to himself, and everybody's always so worried. Barrett and Tifa especially, you get to see their reactions to what's been going on. They're like, bro, please snap out of it, what's going on? Even when they're on the trek to finding Aerith in the Forgotten City, Tifa is like telling Cloud, hey, if you don't feel like yourself, can you like please let me know? Or let anybody else know? I mean, if I were her, I don't think I would be able to shake the fact that he almost killed me and I had to fall into a pool of Mako. But yeah, that's just me. They had, her and Aerith and everybody else had so much patience with him, okay? But yeah, Barrett tells everybody that they have to go. Cloud's sitting right beside Tifa. Tifa is to his right, and then to his left, he sees Aerith. Nobody else does, though. So everybody gets up and leaves. Aerith's like, I'll go see you off. And then he gets up and he calls to Tifa, and he's smiling, but not at her. He's smiling while looking at Aerith, but in Tifa's eyes, nothing is there. So she's like, what is going on with this man? And at the end, once they make it to a meadow, probably a little bit ways away from the Forgotten City or capital. Either way, City of the Ancients, Forgotten Capital. Yeah, so Tiny Bronco's just about fixed and ready to go. Yuffie's grieving, Red 13, or Nanaki, and Tifa are grieving. They're both together. Red 13 trying to comfort Tifa. All the while, Cloud's sitting by himself, still not matching everybody's vibe at all. He's just like, everything's all good. And he's holding and playing around with the inactive white materia that our Aerith gives him in exchange for the active white materia that was given to Cloud by Spitz's timeline's Aerith, which we'll get into later on. He puts the inactive white materia away, and he finds that in his pocket is also the black materia, which is the real one this time. Earlier on, when they're at the Temple of the Ancients, the one they were trying to retrieve was a fake. If anybody noticed something that I didn't, let me know, but he somehow has the real one. I believe that is the real one now. And he meshes it with his Buster Sword, and not in one of the slots, material slots, but like really just It looks weird. I don't know. It feels uncomfortable. But he hides it away from everybody else as everybody's starting to get up and go inside the plane. Once he stands up, he recalls Aerith telling him not to look up in the Spitz timeline, because if you do look up, you'll see the ripple in the sky, which Zack also saw at the beginning of the game. So he tells the crew not to look up. And just like Cloud's reaction when he was first told that, Barrett's like, well, now I'm gonna have to look up, right? And nobody sees anything. Cloud's the only one who sees the ripple in the sky, just like he's the only one to see Aerith. Because during that whole scene, Aerith is like trying to walk around, trying to observe everybody. She touches at one point Red 13 to console him, and he, besides Aerith, he's the second closest to the planet, so he feels her presence. He acknowledges her presence, but he cannot see her. Cloud just thinks it's all normal. He just thinks Aerith is just there roaming around and just being herself, and for the most part being quiet and not really talking to everybody, just observing everyone. As everybody's entering the plane, Cloud stays behind a little bit, and in regards to the two theories again, Cloud and Aerith have a talk. Are you gonna be okay if you need me? She's like, I'll send a smoke signal. She doesn't really say where she's going, so either she's going back to the Forgotten Capital to keep praying, or she's going back into the live stream. And she's like, I promise I will stop Meteor, and he says, I promise I will stop Sephiroth, because that's what happens at the end of the original. Speaking of live stream Aerith, Beagle Aerith, our Aerith, the one who was unalived by Sephiroth, during the final boss fight, like the very, very last battle, it's just Cloud, Sephiroth, and then Aerith makes an appearance. That is, I believe that is livestream Aerith. Once they succeed, they're surrounded in a room of white. Most of the time that indicates interaction with the live stream. And when she says like, everybody's waiting, it's time to go back, basically, she kind of dissipates into green glowing live stream streaks, which to me means, yeah, she's gone. She has to go back into the live stream, and he has to go back to his regular timeline. Cloud does state at the end that they have to go to the northern crater, and Barrett's like, how do you know? He's like, a soldier just knows these things. Well, he's connected to Sephiroth. All of the black-robed guys are going there, so obviously, since he's connected to Sephiroth, he's gonna want to go there too and give him the Black Materia finally to summon Meteor. Now, in regards to the Black Materia, when we're in the Temple of the Ancients and the whole place is about to just collapse and Kate Sith tries to save us, Cloud removes the Black Materia. Aerith is like, oh, this worked for a fake, basically, and he's like, you're trying to fool me. And she says that because, and hopefully they'll explain this in the third, in the original, the actual Black Materia is the Temple of the Ancients. So once the temple is destroyed, that's when the real Black Materia appears. Now, talking about the timelines, there are about 5. The Beagle timeline, our timeline, the Terrier timeline, where we initially see Zack saving Cloud and beating the Shinra troops successfully and not dying, the Pug timeline, Corgi timeline, and then there's the Spitz timeline. I thought it was a Pomeranian, but the internet says Spitz, so that's what it is. Once they made it through that first portal wall of whispers in Remake, they defied destiny, and now like any choice that's made creates a new timeline, and that's indicated by a rainbow light, which is what happens when Cloud deflects Sephiroth's attack when he's trying to kill Aerith. We also see this when Zack chooses to go see Hojo to see if he can find a way to wake Cloud up to save Aerith instead of going to save Biggs from trying to blow up Sector 6. And we get to see the outcome of that choice, which is the Pug timeline. It's so sad and kind of funny, but kind of not, where like Biggs is trying to find his own purpose, feeling like a side character, and then Shinra troops shoot him dead. And here Zack is again facing Shinra troops, where it's like, oh, here we go again. I guess I can't really escape this fate, but I'm going to choose how I go out, and instead of fighting them, this time he jumps into the reactor. Back to the Terrier timeline, we immediately see what happens when Cloud's not there to help Avalanche and Aerith during the disaster at Sector 7. Everybody's either comatose or dead. Cloud's not there because he's with Zack. Zack is trying to save him. Zack gets to save Aerith, but she's also comatose. So he's in a dilemma. He gets to meet up with Elmira and Marlene. Marlene knows what happens to Aerith. I'm a little confused though, because in this Terrier timeline, Cloud isn't there to help the crew, right? But Marlene knows who Cloud is, and so does Biggs. Part of me thought that this Biggs was taken from the Beagle timeline and put into the Terrier timeline, but that doesn't explain Marlene knowing Cloud. The news segment at the beginning mentions that they're still looking for an ex-soldier with a big sword, right? And I don't know if this is Cloud or Zack, since Zack survived the Shinra troop attack. But since both Marlene and Biggs both know about Cloud, then I guess this is Cloud, and maybe this Cloud was switched out for the Cloud that's currently with Zack passed out. I don't know, I'm confused. Someone in the comments, please help me. I think it's safe to assume that the Terrier version of Marlene went through the same thing the Beagle version did, where Aerith goes to check up on her before the Sector 7 disaster in 7th Heaven, and Marlene meets her, touches her hand, and sees a vision of Aerith dying. She knows that Cloud is supposed to be there and that Sephiroth is the perpetrator. She doesn't know Sephiroth by name, but she tells Zack that it's a guy with long gray hair. In the Corgi timeline, though, we see Zack outside of the church, and Sephiroth is trying to enter it, and Zack's like, do you want a piece of me? And Sephiroth's like, no, not you. And it's heavily implied that he's about to kill Aerith, who's inside the church, unbeknownst to Zack. Zack is like switching between different timelines here. And in the Spitz timeline, I think it's still very similar to, you know, Zack finding Aerith and bringing Cloud to Elmira's house, both comatose in Aerith's room. And I think Aerith chooses to hide both her and Cloud in that world or timeline. They go out on a stroll as a nod to Aerith asking him previously like what a perfect date would be in Costa del Sol, and he would just, I think he said a walk, essentially. So they go on a stroll out in the town. He's confused because previously they were falling to their deaths, right? After the Black Materia fiasco. And he's wondering, why are they in Midgar? Why are they in Aerith's house? Everything's confusing. Aerith doesn't seem confused. She's just really strangely happy and positive. And this is just to temporarily hide Cloud, just so she can give him the white materia before Sephiroth catches them, because you'll see Sephiroth try to meddle. He's like, oh, so this is where you've been hiding. You can see some of his black feathers fall down, and I don't think Cloud notices them, only Aerith does. And this is where she tells Cloud not to look up. Don't look up into the sky, or else you see the ripple in the sky and the world is ending. And in this timeline, everybody's just accepted that, and they're just trying to live their lives as best they can till then. And during the stroll, they come across the marketplace. They go to a stall full of jewelry and accessories, and Aerith wants Cloud to choose a gift for her. Now, this is where I talk about us as the audience taking Defying Destiny and Fate the wrong way. Because along with what happens in the Pug timeline, where Biggs is shot dead and Zack has to face Shinra troops once again, you are able to pick any of the accessories. You could pick a hair clip, a bangle, a Spitz version of stamp figurine, but it doesn't matter what you pick because the shopkeeper is like, oh, I didn't mean that one. Why don't you have this instead? He just picks for you. And it's a pin of Aerith's favorite flower, the lily, which is symbolic because that's the first gift that she gives you in Remake, so you're giving that to her as your first gift. And then they go to a candy stall where this lovely lady is offering one free candy to everyone, and again, you're given a set of choices. Whatever you pick, Aerith will pick something different. She'll pick the opposite, but it doesn't matter because the lady offers you candy that she's made herself. Near towards the end of Cloud and Aerith's stroll, there's a photographer trying to figure out which couple he needs to pick to take their last and possibly first photo. Aerith wants to take a photo with Cloud, and you have to pick whatever pose to help impress the photographer. It doesn't matter what pose you pick, you don't get picked to get your photo taken. Cloud and Aerith are like, why? How come? And he's like, you don't look like you're dressed for a date as a couple. You look like you're dressed for a funeral. And I feel like that's a stretch and that's pretty harsh, but I'm sure there's a reason why he said that. So I know Aerith mentions looking to the future. I don't think destiny can be defied in a way where like your fate changes. Like whatever happens at the end is gonna happen in the end. And it's like Final Destination, like you can prolong it and you can make the most of your time, and I think that is the point, making the most of the time that you have whenever you're given a second chance. But in the end, it's all gonna end the same. In every timeline, Aerith has to sacrifice herself. Sephiroth does come after her. You can prolong that somehow, but it's still gonna happen eventually. In another timeline, Aerith is still alive. Zack is still alive. He's being passed into different timelines due to Aerith's whispers, I believe. The Aerith that has now been saved due to Cloud making a new timeline, I believe she's with Zack, or they're both in the same timeline. They just have to meet up. That's what I'm theorizing. So they're gonna play a big part in the third one. We get to see them more, but I don't think they'll be able to join the group, at least not until like the very end. And at the end, they're probably gonna have to sacrifice themselves. I do hope we get to see more of the other characters that are like from the past or from Dirge of Cerberus, because you know, we get to see Nero and Weiss in Intergrade. I loved doing all the side quests. They come off as very important. They weren't too repetitive in my opinion. It was nice seeing the different voice acted cutscenes and reuniting with old friends from Intergrade or from Wall Market. There are a couple things I didn't like. I wouldn't say hate, I just thought, why? For Nibelheim, I did love the acting and the writing, where like Tifa was trying to cope with coming back home, and having Cloud there made her feel better, and they got to find her cat Fluffy again, and she feels more comfortable. And then there's this piano performance, and that was all cute. But I also do feel like I wish it were a little bit more creepier, because in the original it was very much like, there is no war in Ba Sing Se, like, what Nibelheim incident? I have no idea what you're talking about. And then lastly, Dyne's death. I feel like he went out as a hero, and I don't mind that. I still felt emotional, I still cried, but I don't know, there was just a different set of emotions in the original, where he unalives himself by jumping off a cliff. His mental state was just really bad, to a point where he's like, well, I want to reunite Marlene with her mom and we can all be together, which meant Marlene had to, and Barrett's like, we're not having any of that. And then Dyne snaps out of it and he realizes, what have I become? And then he just, yeah. And I don't know, it was just a little bit different. I did love the chocobo races, and I liked finding all the chocobo stops and petting all the cute chocobo chicks. They were so cute. I wish they lent some of their cuteness to the Moogles. I'm sorry, Square, but these Moogles, I don't know. I don't like them as much as the other ones. Yeah, other than that, it was so good. They deserve all the good reviews that they've gotten, and I'm so happy, and I'm just so excited to be a Final Fantasy VII fan. But yeah, besides what I said before about what I think is going to happen in the third installment, Cloud's deteriorating mental health is a big part of the story, and VII in general is just a good example of the unreliable narrator trope. And Tifa and the gang are gonna have to work hard to get Cloud right, and he's gonna have to face the truth. He's gonna have to face the music that he's not the guy he thinks he is. And on top of this timeline stuff and Aerith dying and him not fully understanding that she didn't make it in his timeline, I can only imagine how this is gonna play out in terms of what his reaction is gonna be, because this is a lot worse than the OG one, that's for sure. Which is why I think live stream Aerith, or to other people, possibly a live Aerith from the other timeline, is trying to keep him okay. Since Sephiroth has been trying to manipulate Cloud and like trying to puppeteer him towards giving him the Black Materia and helping him rule the world and worlds, Aerith is also trying to, in the best way possible, manipulate Cloud into just being strong and just not giving in to Sephiroth. But in the end, what happens happens. Meteor is going to be summoned. Yeah. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts and theories down below. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, have a laugh, and stay safe. And I'll see you next time.